My name's Tom Mitchell. 45 years old, and after 2 decades chasing fugitives through alleyways, kicking in doors, and running on nothing but caffeine and adrenaline, I thought I'd finally earned a little peace. So I packed up my life, said goodbye to the sirens and the city smog, and drove north, toward a tiny town called Pine Valley. Population just over 4,000, the kind of place where the loudest thing at night is a cricket, and the biggest headline is who won the pie contest at the county fair. I thought I was moving to quiet. I didn't realize I was moving straight into a storm. Pine Valley looked like something out of a postcard. Narrow roads that curved between cedar trees, mailboxes painted with flowers, church bells on Sunday mornings. It was the sort of place where strangers waved just for passing by. To me, that was heaven. After 20 years in law enforcement, 20 years of meth labs, car chases, and broken people, I was ready for a slower rhythm. The timing was perfect. The town's longtime sheriff, Albert Burt Harrelson, was finally retiring. A legend around these parts. Tough, but fair. The kind of man who could break up a bar fight just by clearing his throat. When I interviewed, he looked me square in the eye and said, "Tom, Pine Valley ain't complicated unless someone decides to make it that way." At the time, I smiled, not realizing just how prophetic that sentence was. A month later, the county board made it official. They shook my hand with that firm 2-pump grip that small towns use when they re-welcoming you into their circle or testing your mettle. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the sheriff of chaos. I was the sheriff of calm. Or so I thought. I didn't move into the old sheriff's house. That felt wrong, like stepping into another man's boots. Instead, I bought a modest cabin on Juniper Lane. Cedar siding, sloped roof, a porch that practically begged for coffee at sunrise. That S, when I discovered something I'd never dealt with before. Something no city crime unit had ever prepared me for. The HOA, the Homeowners Association. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not against rules. I lived by them for 2 decades. Bought the HOA. In Pine Valley, it was like the IRS meta gossip column. 12 pages long, their newsletter read like scripture for suburban micromanagement. Regulations about mailbox height, garbage can choreography. A friendly reminder that a resident's Halloween decorations had stayed up 48 hours past the deadline. And at the bottom, every issue signed with the same name. Cower and Thompson, Neighborhood Watch, Liaison. Oh, I'd met her type before. Every cop is that self-appointed enforcer, the kind of person who believes authority is a personality trait. Karen was in her 40s. Silver bob, posture so straight it could cut glass, and a smile that looked permanently rehearsed. She'd moved from the city 3 months before I did. Rumor had it she'd run her last condo board like a dictatorship in yoga pants. Within days of arriving, she started a group chat called Eyes on Pine Valley, complete with whistle emojis and daily situational awareness drills. She'd patrol the cul-de-sac, wearing a reflective vest, clipboard in hand, muttering about suspicious activity, which in Pine Valley meant a raccoon near a trash bin. It was quirky at first, harmless even, until it wasn't. Now, I could have told everyone who I was from day one, the new sheriff in town, but I didn't, because I wanted to learn this place before I led it. People act differently when they know you're law enforcement. They guard their words, clean up their jokes, hide the mess. I didn't want their performance. I wanted their truth. So, I went incognito. No badge, no uniform, just jeans, boots, a flannel shirt, and, as always, my service weapon on my hip, carried legally, safely, and discreetly. Not because I'm paranoid, but because when you've spent your life around danger, you learn not to rely on luck. In our state, open carry is legal. Always has been. For law enforcement, it's second nature. But to someone like Karen, seeing a gun and being in danger were the same thing. That's a dangerous equation. A week after I'd settled in, an orange flyer showed up on my door. Community Safety Awareness Meeting, tonight. And at the bottom, in bold font, hosted by Karen Thompson. I knew I had to go. That evening, I sat quietly in the back of the HOA clubhouse. sipping paper cup lemonade, while Karen commanded the room like a general. Her PowerPoint presentation was titled Defending Pine Valley from Dangerous Optics. And when she said dangerous optics, she meant people like me. It's not about what's illegal, she declared, pacing the front of the room. It's about what makes people feel unsafe. And firearms, even holstered ones, are intimidating. She quoted statutes that didn't exist, cited laws from states that weren't ours, and ended her speech by suggesting the HOA collectively regulate the display of weapons in public spaces. I could have corrected her right then and there. I could have pulled out my badge, clarified the law, and ended the show. But I didn't. Because sometimes letting people reveal their full ignorance is more educational than any lecture. For the next couple of weeks, I stayed polite. I waved when I passed her, helped Mrs. Davenport carry groceries, even joined the church bake sale. But I could feel it, that quiet tension that builds when someone has made up their mind about you. Karen's eyes would always flick down to my hip before meeting mine. And one morning, I caught her taking a picture of me from across the street, clipboard in one hand, phone in the other. By then, the whispers had started. The new guy's armed. Is that even allowed? Maybe Karen's right. The story she was telling had legs, and it was sprinting faster than the truth could follow. Then came that day, the day that turned a quiet grocery trip into a full-blown spectacle. It was a Tuesday, ordinary in every way. I'd stopped by the Pine Valley Market to grab coffee and a loaf of bread. No badge, no uniform, just my regular clothes. I was halfway down the aisle when I heard it, a sharp, piercing shriek that sliced through the calm like a siren in church. Gun? He has a gun. Shoppers froze mid. A cart rolled into a display of oranges, sending them tumbling like dominoes. And standing near the entrance, face red with outrage, phone clutched in one hand like a holy relic, was Karen Thompson. Her voice was trembling but loud enough to shake the rafters. "Somebody call the police!" she screamed. "He's armed!" The irony hit me like a slow punch. She was calling the police, and I was the police. You could feel the air tighten. Fear is contagious. And Karen was patient zero. A young mom pulled her toddler behind a cereal display. A stock boy froze mid-step, holding a box of paper towels like a shield. Phones started coming out. Half to record, half to dial. I raised my hand slightly, palms open, my voice steady. "Ma'am, everything's under control. I'm legally carrying this firearm." But Karen wasn't hearing it. Her eyes were wide with conviction, not understanding. "Legal," she spat. "You think walking around a family store with a weapon is legal? This isn't a war zone." I could see it in her face. This wasn't about fear anymore. It was about control. She'd made herself the sheriff of Pine Valley in her own mind, and I had just challenged her jurisdiction. When logic fails, theatrics begin. Karen whipped out her phone and started dictating into it like a courtroom stenographer. "Yes, operator. There's an armed man at Pine Valley Market. He's waving his gun around and threatening everyone." The shoppers around us murmured, confused. I wasn't waving anything. My hands were visible, my weapon untouched. I wanted to stop her, but something in me said, let it play out. Reality was about to teach its own lesson. Behind her, a teenage cashier whispered to another, "Isn't that the new sheriff?" I gave her a subtle shake of my head. Not yet. Minutes later, the distant wail of sirens rolled through the air, that familiar sound that means everything and nothing at once. In the city, sirens blend into the background. But here in Pine Valley, taste of time. Karen straightened up, triumphant. "Hear that?" she said. "That's justice coming for you." Little did she know. Justice was already standing in front of her, holding a loaf of bread. Through the window, I saw 2 patrol cars pull up, lights flashing, gravel spitting under their tires, and stepping out were Deputy Elena Rodriguez and Deputy Wilchun. My deputies. They moved in calmly, scanning the scene. When they saw me, recognition flickered, and then a smirk. Karen, however, waved her arms wildly. "Officers, That's him. Arrest him before he hurts someone. Elena approached, notebook in hand. Ma'am, she said evenly, can you tell us exactly what happened? Kara launched into her monologue. He pulled out a firearm and started intimidating everyone. He refuses to comply. He's breaking HOA safety rules. Will Chun raised an eyebrow. Elena, he said softly. Did she just say HOA rules? Elena nodded, pretending to take notes. And did he threaten anyone, ma'am? Point the weapon. Make verbal threats. Karen faltered. Well, not exactly. But the presence of a gun is a threat. That's when I finally spoke. .com/measured. Deputies, thank you for your response. I believe there's been a misunderstanding. I reached into my back pocket, slowly, deliberately, and pulled out my wallet. Inside, gleaming under the fluorescent lights, my badge. The room went dead silent. Elena grinned. Afternoon, Sheriff? Karen blinked, like her brain had just blue-screened. A sheriff. Yes, ma'am, I said, tucking the badge back in place. And I can assure you, I am very familiar with our state escalate laws. You could almost hear the air deflate out of her ego. A few shoppers laughed under their breath. Someone even clapped. Karen tried to recover, mumbling about protocol and community expectations. But it was too late. Her performance had ended, and reality had taken its bow. I didn't press charges for the false report. I could have, but I figured the embarrassment would do the teaching for me. A few days later, the HOA newsletter came out again. The safety awareness section was mysteriously missing. Karen still waved when she saw me now, but it was the kind of wave that says, I learned my lesson. In Pine Valley, it went back to being quiet again. For the most part, because if there's one thing I've learned, peace isn't the absence of noise. It's knowing which voices matter and which ones just